Are you clean fasting or are you dirty fasting? See, it's time we put a name to it. That way you can identify, am I clean fasting today or am I dirty fasting? And dirty fasting, the name kind of implies that it's, well, dirty and that it's bad. But the reality is dirty fasting, which we'll talk a lot about, is not bad. It's just a different style of fasting. Let me break it down really quick and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. Okay, clean fasting is essentially where you're only consuming essentially water and maybe some sparkling water. Nothing with any calories whatsoever and just super clean stuff that isn't going to have any effect, whether from chemical or nutritionally or caloric, on your body. Okay, dirty fasting is where you might consume 0 to 50 calories from something, maybe a little bit of fat, maybe a little bit of diet soda, maybe something like that. We'll talk about the specifics in a little bit. The whole idea is clean fasting is supposed to be totally clean, nothing that is what is called insulinogenic or anti-autophagic, nothing that would stop autophagy and nothing that would spike insulin. Whereas dirty fasting, you allow a little of it in the hopes that your overall net positive result from your fast will still be better than not fasting altogether. Hey, before we get into all the details, please do hit that red subscribe button and please do hit that bell icon. We have new videos coming out every single day, over 2 million subscribers, the leading intermittent fasting channels on YouTube. So please do hit that little button. Let's go ahead and dive in and talk about this in a little bit more detail. So remember, with fasting, there's a lot of different benefits. And one of the big benefits of fasting, let's not fool ourselves, is massive caloric restriction. Okay, so we can achieve that through multiple different avenues. But then on the other side of the coin, one of the biggest benefits of intermittent fasting or fasting in general is keeping it so strict that you have a high degree of what's called autophagy, where your body goes through its cellular recycling and where it really cleans up cells. It's a survival of the fittest component. It's like where your cells are so starved of nutrients that they have no choice but to consume the weak, decrepit parts of themselves to become stronger cells. The second that we eat something, we potentially stop that. But when we look at dirty fasting, you're consuming 0 to 50 calories, which technically wouldn't be fasting, right? Well, in a lot of ways it's not, but in a lot of ways it still is. You see, people would argue that dirty fasting allows you to remain compliant, which I agree is a very good thing when it comes down to just having success overall. You know, you have to ask yourself, are you trying to fast because you want to develop kind of this element of mastery and be really strict with it, or are you trying to fast because you just want to lose some weight? Okay, so dirty fasting would be consuming maybe some diet sodas during your fast, maybe consuming a little bit of MCT oil, a little bit of heavy cream, a little bit of bone broth. Maybe you have some other fats, some coconut oil, some olive oil, but you're largely keeping it under 50 calories. And again, we're going to talk more about the overall positive net effect that we want. Point is, some foods that you consume, even in small amounts, can cause a positive effect. They can trigger a better result from your fast. You just have to be very clear with yourself on what your goal is. So let's put it like this. If your goal is health and you're really trying to be strict and trying to get the maximum effect, maximum autophagy, maximum fat burning, of course, clean fasting where you only consume water and possibly some black coffee or green tea, that's going to be the best route. If you're trying to do this long term and not burn out on it, then having some dirty fasting days might be the best way. So let's talk cephalic insulin response for just a second. Okay, we're going to get a little technical, but I'll bring it all back full circle. Cephalic insulin response, or cephalic phase insulin response, is where you consume something that is sweet, even if it doesn't have calories, and your pancreas begins to secrete insulin. It does this as sort of priming the pump, because our bodies are smart, and it senses when something sweet is coming in, so the pancreas begins to produce insulin. Well, when we produce insulin, one would argue that we technically break a fast. Okay, so if our pancreas is secreting insulin, we're stopping different pathways in the body, we're stopping fat burning, and it just slows things down. Another thing that we have to look at with dirty fasting that we have to pay attention to is enzyme redirection and enzyme potential. Whenever we consume something that requires digestion of any degree, okay, some fats, a little bit of heavy cream, some bone broth, anything like that requires digestion, that's going to redirect enzyme potential. What that means is normally when we're fasting, the enzymes within our body, within our gut, are getting a chance to really work on things they wouldn't ordinarily work on. Okay, with the gut, a perfect example is comparing it to an office building. That office building is full of people. The people go home for the day, the office building's empty. The janitorial crew, the enzymes, can come in and do their job. But if someone comes into the office, or 5 people come into the office, then all of a sudden that enzyme janitorial crew is having to clean up after them and not able to do their cleanup job. Okay, so we do have to remember, whenever we consume something, we do slow that process down. Does that mean that dirty fasting is bad? No, I absolutely commend you for making changes and doing things. We just have to know the whole picture here. So let's realistically look at the downsides for just a second. With dirty fasting, you're spiking your insulin. Okay, you're having foods that spike your insulin. Even if you're doing what's called a fat fast, where you just have a little bit of fast, you still indirectly spike your insulin. That means without any doubt, you are slowing down your fat loss. Are you stopping it? No, but you are slowing it down. It would be better if you were clean fasting. But is every day supposed to be a personal record? Is every day supposed to be the best? I mean, yes, we should strive for that, but it's not reality. Okay, consistency is key. Okay, the other downside is that if you have artificial sweeteners during a fast, there's a gut biome effect that's not very good. Okay, so you kind of go backwards that way. In an effort to restore your gut, in an effort to have a healthier gut, which fasting is very good for, having artificial sweeteners, as demonstrated in a study that was published in the journal Nature, it has an effect on glucose intolerance that's directly related to the gut biome. Okay, let me just break this down really quick. So this study took a look at subjects that had artificial sweeteners, consumed artificial sweeteners. They found that it made them glucose intolerant to where they weren't able to process glucose very well. But what they did is they took the bacteria from those subjects and put it into different subjects. And those subjects became glucose intolerant, which means that the glucose intolerance metabolic effect was a result of their gut bacteria changing from the artificial sweeteners. And just for matter of reference, if you're interested in different things that you can have during a fast or that you should have after a fast, if you've heard of Thrive Market before, I've created a specific grocery bundle through Thrive Market. So they're an online membership-based grocery store. So I've been able to create my specific fasting bundles, my keto bundles and things like that. So it's like you're going grocery shopping with me. You can see here's what Thomas DeLauer would pick for fasting. Here's what Thomas DeLauer would pick for keto, for hormone optimization, etc. Different grocery bundles. So super cool, super convenient, way easier than going to the grocery store. The stuff gets delivered right to your doorstep. Plus you can get a little bit of feedback from what I would choose and what I would put in my cart. So highly recommend you check them out. There's a link down below in the description. You've probably heard of Thrive Market. They're very well known. So make sure you check them out. They're a big supporter of this channel. One of the best ways you can continue to support us, this channel, is by supporting our sponsors like Thrive. So big thank you to you and big thank you to Thrive. So there's these negative sides here, but let's go and be realistic, okay? When you're dirty fasting and you're having anything other than really water or maybe some black coffee or tea, there are a lot of things that you consume that still give you a net positive effect. Okay, here's an example. Apple cider vinegar. Technically, it's not water. Technically, it has a few calories. But the benefits of apple cider vinegar, as far as stimulating autophagy go, are actually better than not consuming it altogether. So sure, you lose out because you had a couple calories and it might stop some enzymatic process, it might stop something, but you win in another category. Same kind of thing with cinnamon, right? Cinnamon mimics insulin, so it helps restore blood sugar. Could potentially get you into a ketogenic state faster. Could potentially help you burn fat faster. But does it technically have a calorie? It does. So technically, on some level, it's hurting your fast. But on other levels, it's helping. So dirty fast doesn't mean everything's sloppy and dirty. Great example is coffee. Personally, I find coffee to be in the clean fast category because it is so beneficial. But if you ask some people, like Rhonda Patrick, who's well known in the fasting community, she swears up and down that coffee breaks a fast because it has a couple of calories. Well, those 2 or 3 calories that you get from that cup of coffee, the caffeine in coffee stimulates lipolysis, stimulates fatty acid utilization. Plus, caffeine is a phosphodiesterase inhibitor, which means that it stops the inactivation of cyclic adenosine monophosphate, which allows your body to get into literally a fasted state faster. So consuming 1 to 3 calories has a net calorie burn of 5 to 10 hypothetically, or 1 step back, 2 steps forward kind of thing. Also, coffee's been shown in a lot of different studies to stimulate autophagy through the caffeine, but also through the polyphenols that are in coffee. So we actually get more of an autophagy effect too. My point is that there's things that you consume during a dirty fast that are still positive. Consider this for 1 second too. You're fasting, but you consume 50 calories worth of MCT oil or 50 calories worth of just a healthy fat. Well, it turns out that those fats might help you produce more ketones. And if you produce more ketones, then you get a whole different array of benefits that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Okay? Because ketones act as signaling devices and have healing properties in and of themselves, away from just the caloric restriction. So point is, choose what your goal is. If you want to have fats and you want a dirty fast, then that's totally fine. Or if you want to have some diet soda and you want a dirty fast for compliance, that's fine. Or if you want to have a little bit more flavored coffee, or you want to have a little bit of food here and there, that's gonna be okay. It's just not a clean fast. Don't fool yourself into thinking that you're fasting in a super clean, strict way. Be okay with the fact that today is a dirty fast and accept it for that, because otherwise you end up going down a completely different direction and messing with your own psyche. Before I forget too, there's something I want to mention that I want to talk about fat specifically. If you consume palmitic acid or myristic acid, which are specific saturated fats, like you're going to get palmitic acid mainly from dairy, myristic acid from coconut oil. Those have been demonstrated in studies to increase autophagy. So you actually get an autophagic effect from those. So again, it's all a balance of what you want. And oleic acid from olive oil has a different autophagic effect. I could go on and on and on about autophagy, but this video is not really about that. So get a clear definition of what clean fasting is and what dirty fasting is. And I think you'll find yourself a lot happier and a lot less confused. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel, and I'll see you tomorrow.